Good evening, race fans. Welcome back. It is time for round 8 of the Alliance Sim Racing V8 Supercars series, brought to you as always by Simple Racing Broadcasts. Tonight, the thunder of these Aussie beasts meets the cloudy skies over Austria as we take on the iconic Red Bull Ring in the wet this evening. Rain, of course, being the great equaliser, will turn this high-speed circuit into a true test of skill, control and bravery as the drivers fight for every overtaking opportunity, with long straights leading into heavy braking zones and treacherous curbs that will become even more unforgiving in these conditions. Every lap is going to be a battle just to keep it on the black stuff. Expect drama, expect chaos, expect some heroic drives, I'm sure, as our field full of talented racers fights for every inch of grip that they can find on this slippery stage. The championship battle heats up. This is the third to last round, and we need to see this evening who will master the rain, rise above this challenge and claim victory under the grey Austrian skies. It is time to find out. Buckle up. Round 8 at Red Bull Ring is just about ready to get underway. My name is Jared Cole, and as always, I am joined in the booth by one of my esteemed co-hosts tonight, of course, none other than Josh Harris. Josh, welcome back again for another week of fantastic ASR racing.
Thank you, Jared. Not sure that I'm all that excited to be here in the Austrian drizzle. I'm more of an Australian summer kind of guy, but alas, here we are. Exciting evening, a couple of 18-lap races with one compulsory pit stop in each. Maybe not the most exhilarating race format, but absolutely spiced up by our weather forecast tonight. It's going to be a big challenge for our racers tonight. You know, we always talk, we often use the terms, Jared, you know, big heavy cars, overpowered, undertired. Well, if you think that's the case in the dry, try getting one of these things around any race circuit as fast as you can when the track's damp.
Absolutely spot on, and Red Bull Ring is treacherous at the best of times. Some of these corners are very tricky indeed, with changing radius, a bit of a change of camber mid-turn and under brakes. It looks like a really simple track, but do not let it fool you. It has some surprises in store, and you add a little bit of water to it and all of a sudden you're looking at completely different lines to what drivers might be used to. I know the drivers here tonight have been putting in a lot of practice in the lead up. This is actually the first wet race we've seen this season, so it's going to be very interesting to see what sort of results we end up with at the end of this evening. We've got just a few minutes till qualifying gets underway, so let's take a look at the championship standings here before round 8. And with 3 rounds to go, Matt van der Kraan has really got a stranglehold on this championship, up by just shy of 100 points over Jason Spriggs in second. Damien Cairns not too far behind in P3, so a good showing from Accelerate, but the Angry Birds racer has absolutely got it stitched up at the moment, and it's going to take a miracle to knock him off that perch. Maybe tonight will be the one that brings that miracle for Spriggs or Cairns. Dean Logsdale not too far behind either in P4. Stephen Varga and Anthony Visma have really been a bit quieter this season, with a couple of races just not going to plan for them. Jamie McKnight back in 7th ahead of Jeff Thomas, Gary Buckland and Stephen Tonkin rounding out your top 10 right now. And I've got to say, Josh, at this point it's hard to imagine that anyone other than Matt van der Kraan is going to be holding that trophy on the top step at the end of round 10.
I can't disagree with you there, Jared. We're starting to see a healthy little margin extend, and only a couple of races to go. But rain is the big equaliser, and we see in real life racing all over the world that different people, you know, pop to the front as soon as the track gets wet, and you know, keeping a bit of an eye on practice so far. Obviously, Matt van der Kraan's fast. Over one lap in the rain as well, but I'm very interested to see how all of these races go in the wet. Personally, I'd love to see, you know, maybe a few wildcard names thrown to the front. But when we consider the season as a whole, I think if Matt van der Kraan gets through tonight in you know, relatively one piece, he can probably claim to have one hand all over that trophy.
Absolutely. Speaking of wildcard entries, and look, not a wildcard entry, but someone who's been absent from a few rounds, and I have noticed is back on the race sheet for tonight. Trav Hunt looks to be making an appearance this evening. Now, historically, he's probably one of the names that I would have said is most likely to challenge van der Kraan for a race win. So to have him here tonight, it's going to be very, very interesting to see what his inclusion in the field this evening brings to our racing. We'll keep a close eye on him throughout qualifying just to see where he ends up, but I can tell you based on the practice results, it's going to be a very, very tight battle for pole as we are about 30 seconds away from getting our qualifying session underway. As always, we have 2 lone laps, 10 minutes for these guys to set their qualifying time, and then 18 laps in race 1 and race 2 with a compulsory pit stop in each race this evening. So it's look, there's going to be a little bit of strategy at play. It's only 18 laps, which means it's really going to be a flat-out sprint, isn't it, Josh?
It definitely is, and I think one of the interesting things that will come out of probably the first race will really get an understanding of what the strat is, but typically these cars, you definitely don't want to take your warm, wet tyres off. A wet track with a set of wet tyres will see through 18 laps, not a problem at all. So it's going to be interesting to see how these drivers go about it. I don't know, Jared, you may be able to fill me in whether there's a minimum that a CPS is. So I'm not sure whether there's a minimum amount of fuel they have to put in, or maybe it is in the rules and I've just missed it, that you absolutely have to change tyres. And if you do have to change tyres, it's going to be very interesting to see how you go about that. If there is a mandatory tyre change requirement tonight, then Jared, I would expect to see I would expect to see cars in very early, change their tyres, and then have the longest amount of time that they can on that warming rubber. You want to get those tyres off as fast as possible.
Yeah, look, I can confirm as we go down to the track to check out some of the qualifying action, I can confirm that the rule book says that a pit stop is considered to meet the compulsory pit stop if a driver goes on the jacks. So I would think there's got to be a tyre change for that to happen with these supercars. I'm not sure if fuel will actually get you up on the jacks. It may do.
I'll be interested to see that, Jared. Obviously, real-world supercars rules dictate that any time the car's being worked on, it has to go on jacks. And I'll be honest that I'm not sure how much of the real-life supercar stuff iRacing puts into their coding. So these guys will have done their practice, and it very well may be that if you pull up for fuel only in these cars, that it still lifts you on the jacks, because that is a requirement of the supercar series. However, I think that if that's not the case, then they do have to change the tyre. If it was me, I would be changing one tyre only. I would be
I'm probably relatively certain, Josh. I'm just thinking back to, sorry to cut you off, I'm just thinking back to previous CPS stops. I'm pretty sure we've seen a change as quick as a few seconds from people just going and taking a token amount of fuel. So I think you're on the money. I'm pretty sure these cars will go up on the jacks for fuel only as well, which you've got to think these drivers have got to be considering a 1 litre pit stop, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Get it up on the jacks, get it off the jacks, and get going again. 18 laps is, unless they have significantly capped the starting fuel for these cars, and that there is therefore an amount that everyone has to take. But if they haven't, the pit stop is merely to get everyone through the pit lane and throw a bit of strategy in, get the car up on the jacks, get it dropped, and get going again. But it's going to be interesting to see. There's so many challenges that come with wet racing, and personally, I'm a big fan of it. It looks like it's only a little bit of drizzle tonight, so hopefully for these drivers, not too much spray, because these cars certainly do throw that up. But all of this is a challenge from the amount of visibility that they've got to needing to find those alternate racing lines, and when you do go and make a pass, how much harder it is, etc. So there's a lot of excitement to come yet tonight, Jared. That's for sure.
Absolutely, and you can see already as we take a bit of a look at Nick Häusler back on track tonight. So good to have Nick back with us, and Troy Sippel out there as well. It feels to me very much like these guys are really on ice skates right now. I don't think I've seen a car so composed in a long time here with ASR. They're usually throwing it through these corners, and I think everyone's just looking to put a clean lap down as we see Dean Logsdale about to be the first to cross the line with what looks to be, and a bit of support for Team AJR from Andrew Johnston Racing in the chat. Logsdale sets the best time straight off the bat, 1:41.45 ahead of Vanderkraan by 0.17. So Logsdale out to show us how it's done in the wet tonight by the look of things. As a few more times start to roll through. I tell you what, not a lot of separation as usual from the ASR stable of drivers, but definitely a lot further spread out than we are used to seeing. Still obviously a lot of drivers to complete their laps, but you know, we've seen top 10 separated by less than a second, and as it stands, the top 10 currently separated by almost 3 seconds. This rain might have a bigger impact on the race tonight than perhaps we were expecting, Josh.
Yeah, Joe, there's plenty of people out there who just don't drive that much in the rain, whether that be by virtue of the series that they drive in not having a heap of rain, or you know, by a very deliberate choice and avoiding it. It is a huge challenge. It's very different to driving in the dry, and naturally we will see a far bigger spread of names. But personally, you know, I think that it's an amazing challenge. There's different lines that you have to run. The track will feel different. Even, you know, you can be going through a corner and you'll find patches of rubber that are down on the road where there's less grip because it's a much slicker surface. So typically all of the places that you look for in the dry are places that you avoid in the wet. And, you know, you talk about a composed car. There's absolutely no way to drive these things in the wet other than to be very composed. You know, it's such a challenge to tiptoe, would be the word that I'll use, these cars around the track and make sure that you don't do anything silly, as we do see Vanderkrant on his second lap go into the 40s, which is, I would border on saying spectacularly fast. I didn't do many laps, Jared, but, you know, I can tell you that I'm pretty comfortably in the mid 42s. To think that there's another 1.6 seconds to find compared to what I was doing is pretty intimidating, that's for sure. That's a fast lap, and I'd be surprised to see anyone else get in the 40s, but maybe they will.
Have a look at some of the names that we've had appear, though, up the top of that timing tower. Jeff Thomas, a huge lap, only a 10th off. And Jim Caperonis, who we know has got a bit of pace at most of our races. He's usually a bit more towards the mid-pack, but a P3, that's just a stellar qualifying lap from Caperonis, just over 141.15 for Caperonis, so a fantastic result for him. Still a little way to go with a few drivers out there on track trying to put their laps together, but most notably quite a number of drivers who have not actually recorded a lap time despite having done a couple of laps. So it just gives you an idea of how hard it is to really be pushing for pace while still trying to keep it together. Michael Hayes on his way around now in the Nova Sim Sports entry, and geez, it's a good looking car. I don't mind coming back to this one, honestly. Fantastic livery on that one. I love a lot of these cars, but something about the Nova Sim Sports one just always jumps out at me. I think he's not on track for a particularly quick lap there. 146 dead, so he's going to not going to manage to improve his position on the second lap around. Peter Sattler's out on his second lap right now, and you can see a few more times starting to roll through. Jeff Thomas not able to improve on his initial lap, so he heads on into the pits. Gary Buckland looking to improve his, but I'm not sure that he's actually got another lap up the sleeve here to be able to put it together, unfortunately. One of the joys of limited lap qualifying, isn't it, Josh?
It is, and you know, 2 laps is a big ask. There's not a huge amount of time, and it's so simple to make a mistake. You know, turn 1 at the Red Bull Ring is a very tricky corner. It's very fast with not much room to play with. So it's a hot spot for off tracks and things like that. And you know, I wouldn't be surprised if a number of these drivers have you know, boulder wide at turn 1 on their very first lap, and you know, immediately being off, you know, or had that first lap discounted, you know, and as you mentioned, Jared, a couple of names towards the front that we may not normally see, but if we look towards the back end, Jamie McKnight from Fishy Motorsports in 17th and Gary Buckland from Old Mate & Sons in 15th are certainly not names that we would usually associate with being that far down, and you know, we may, for our regular viewers, who, may be thinking, well, 15th and 17th aren't that bad. We do have a pretty significantly reduced field today. So obviously a few of these guys have some beautiful concourse quality cars, and they're a little bit afraid to get them out in the rain and make them too dirty. But we've definitely got some names towards the back end of this field that we wouldn't usually associate with being back down there. But that's a good thing. That's going to make our racing a little bit more spicy and entertaining. Definitely, some pretty typical names up the front, but some names that we wouldn't usually see. And I think that it's fantastic to see a bit of weather and see a bit of some different names thrown up there. I think it's fun.
Absolutely. I'm anticipating a bit of carnage through turn 1 and turn 3 here on lap 1, but we will see just how gently these guys do take it on that first couple of laps as they try and set up a bit of a dry line. G'day Luke, welcome back. Of course, another Team AJR supporter joining us in the chat as we see Jamie McKnight, the last man on track right now, I believe, just looking to improve his time. Unfortunately,
Scotty Rankin just left track as well. So yeah, I think from what I can see, Jared, that is everyone done.
Does look that way as we wait for the grid. So here it is for race 1 tonight. Mark Vanderkraan and Jeff Thomas barely separated on the front row. Jim Caperonis and Dean Logsdale right behind them, followed by Jason Spriggs and Damon Fisher. Scott Rankin and Nick Heusler behind them, then the top 10 rounded out by Stephen Varga and Matthew Stoyles. Troy Sipple and Michael Hayes on row 6 behind them. Peter Sattler and Dylan Sipple line up next ahead of Gary Buckland and Rick Viggar. Jamie McKnight and Joseph Granshaw behind them ahead of Daniel Sheriffs and Philip Marsh from PJM Racing. Anita Buckland and Dane Nothdurft a little further back. Trav Hunt and Lucas Burt in 23rd and 24th respectively. And Craig Rose the last on the grid. Your safety car drivers this evening, Tim Nicol and Nathan Allen, which I suspect might come into play a little sooner than they might be hoping for this evening, I reckon, Josh.
Yeah, I can't imagine that we'll get through tonight without a safety car. I think the first challenge that I would like to point out, Jared, is just getting these cars up and moving off of a standing start. We have seen throughout the first, what are we up to now? Round 8. So through the first 7 rounds, we've seen a number of incidents where our guys and girls have struggled to get the car rolling, let alone racing. The challenge of doing that in the wet is just so much greater. So I'll be very surprised if we get to turn 1 with all of our cars facing forward. And then I think that the big thing to watch for tonight, Jared, is the first time that a driver forgets that it's wet, puts himself up on the typical dry line, and as soon as they touch the brakes, they get a whole heap of wheel lock associated with all that rubber. And we don't have time now. I could go into explaining why it works, but for our viewers at home who maybe don't race all that often, the big learning from racing is that the rubber that's down on the track that makes them so grippy when we're in the dry is exactly what challenges us and makes it so slippery in the wet. So look for some strange lines tonight. They will be faster. And we've got 45 seconds until lights come on. Jared, I don't know about you, but I am nervous, I think would be the way that I would describe it, to see these cars get off the line and get to turn 1. Terrified, honestly, Josh. It's
I have no idea what to expect here. I'm kind of anticipating carnage on the start as people try to get these cars moving, but we are so close to getting underway here. It's anyone's race at this point. I think we could see a major upset if there's a significant collision. It's only 18 laps, so it's going to be very, very hard to recover if people do find themselves turned around and perhaps with some damage. We're getting ready to go now as we go down to the track, waiting on our starter, getting us underway. Jeff Thomas joins the grid, and we are just about set to go racing. We wait on the lights now, and let's see what Matt Vanderkraan's got up his sleeve. Here we go. The lights come up. And we are underway. Matt Vanderkraan getting a fantastic start. Surprisingly, no one looping it off the line in these conditions, which is awesome. But here we go. Turn 1 is going to be the danger point here as we get underway in lap 1 of race 1 this evening with the Alliance Sim Racing of V8 Supercars. And despite going 2 or 3 wide, a very, very clean start. Matt Vanderkraan already looking to stamp his authority on this race and open the gap up, but Jeff Thomas is all over his tail as they come on down to turn 3 for the first time. This is a very, very tight corner and difficult at the best of times in the dry. Let's see if we get everyone through here cleanly. This is going to be, again, a real opportunity for some of these drivers to make some places if anyone does come together, but almost stopping in the background there, Josh, as these drivers do just take it very, very easy on their way through for the first time around tonight.
It's a very ginger start, and I think that that's a good thing. Race 2 may be different. Get 18 laps of racing under these guys' belts, and it could be a little bit more frantic. But for now, a fantastic race start. Everybody taking their time, being respectful of the car that they've got underneath them, and settling into some good quality racing. I'll call out the spray there that you can see. I mentioned at the start of the race that the track is only what we would consider to be damp, so not a huge amount of spray, but I can assure you that it is still going to be providing challenges. And if you think that it's normally hard enough to race in a pack up behind a safety car, up behind a supercar, then have a thought for these guys tonight who are trying to do it with a whole heap of water spray in their face too. So a nice little opening lap, and everybody really starting to settle into a rhythm. We have not a huge amount of movement through the field, Jared. Gary Buckland up 5, Jamie McKnight up 5, Trav Hunt up 8. So really, what we'd probably expect to see over the first couple of laps, and that is that those guys who normally race towards the front, they will probably move forward. But everybody just starting to settle into a rhythm, although we do see an old mate and son's car in the background there have a little bit of trouble.
Buckland, getting just a bit loose on that exit from turn 1.
It's something that we'll see, Jared, throughout this race is, people who, I guess, forget, maybe lean on a tyre a bit too hard or end up on a painted curb, and before you know it, you've got a whole heap of wheel spin. And look, while we're looking here, this is another corner so easy to get a lot of wheel spin out of. Getting these cars up and moving again from very slow corners is always difficult, and in the rain tonight, it's going to be even more challenging.
Absolutely it is, and we've got a number of battles going on here. Gary Buckland not giving Peter Sattler an easy ride here at all, but a bit of an over-under from Sattler might be enough, as we see Matthew Stoyles just going very, very wide there. G'day, of course, to the artist formerly known as, this is not New Zealand Supercar, this is Alliance Sim Racing, the V8 Supercars series here on iRacing. We are in round 8 of 10 for this season, and the championship is still alive, although Matt Vanderkraan doing his absolute best to shut it down this evening out in front. Jason Spriggs not too far behind in 4th at the moment, but the battle going on here, this pack is where it's at this evening, as we see 4 or 5 drivers really battling it out for 11th. Gary Buckland out in front of this small battle pack right now, but everyone still managing some pretty decent pace. How Vanderkraan is pulling away out in front right now, I'm not exactly sure. 141.5 in these conditions. That's pretty epic, Josh.
It is, but to give a little bit of an insight into maybe how he is achieving that, as Troy Sippel throws it up the inside of Stoyles and gets that pass done really nicely, manages to hold the car relatively straight as he climbs up over those curbs on the way out. With a bit of a bang. You are right. My apologies.
Yeah, Troy's son Dylan getting past Stoyles there, but Trav Hunt and Troy Sippel going at it just behind for P15. So a little bit of argy-bargy there. But you ought to expect it, really, in these conditions, plus in the Gen3s. It's just about the only way to get these passes done. So respectful banging of doors, I think, is the best way to describe that, Mr. Harris.
A little bit of contact isn't too much of a concern in these cars. They're big, they're tough, they're absolutely able to be, lent on. But if we go back to our comments from just a little bit before, Matt Vanderkraan out the front, already over a second, he is going to be enjoying the benefit of clear air. He's got no spray, he's got no one right behind him, and he is going to be enjoying the opportunity to just think about his own world and get out of here as fast as he can. Although we do see now Fisher and is that one Mr. Vargs?
Yeah, there's a bit of an issue with his livery this evening that I'm trying to work out in the background for you here, folks. I'm not quite sure why he's showing up in the all red this evening instead of his quantum colours, but we'll get to work on that one.
I'm glad that you're saying the same thing that I am, Jared, because I was just ever so slightly confused for a moment as we see these guys having a really nice battle. Fisher tucked right up in there, 0.2 of a second off the back of Vargs' car, and I can assure you that that is taking a whole heap of bravery, but also driver skill, doing a fantastic job of racing hard. As we jump forward now and have a look at Logsdale trying to put a pass on Thomas for second position. So fantastic opportunity there out of turn 3. If you can get the drive, you are on the inside for the turn 4 downhill. However, a very, very difficult downhill braking area into a tight corner. So easy to lock a brake there and end up wide. The guys have managed to sneak through there too. A little bit of a bang on the way out, but that's okay. We don't mind seeing people come with a bit of side-by-side contact. As Thomas does settle in now behind Logsdale and just look to get his rhythm back.
Further back in the field, a little bit of side-by-side action from Hayes and Vigar, just getting caught up through the turn, and Vigar backs it out so they can get back underway. And look, getting very, very close together. There's moves happening all over the place. Dylan Sipple and Peter Sattler now, Quantum and Angry Birds, side by side battling it out behind Gary Buckland to try to keep up with everything that's going on. Because have a look at Travis Hunt here on the back of Matthew Stoyles. He's looking to move up through the pack, and we know he's got the pace. Didn't have it in qualifying, but certainly will be looking to make his way back up towards the front of the field. And a very good evening to our friend Simon Haynes joining the chat in YouTube. Mate, always a pleasure to have you joining us, of course. Apparently the rain doesn't look too bad from the couch. Josh, these guys reckon it should be easier than this.
Well, good about easy, but it definitely looks awesome. These guys are doing a fantastic job, and of course the iRacing platform does a fantastic job at modelling this rain. Jared, I'm not sure whether you can have a look at something. Jamie McKnight fallen all the way back to 23rd, so I was just about to make a comment while we were on board, or while we were having a bit of a look at Dylan Sipple, about how easy it is to be so very fast over a couple of laps and make moves going forward. The trick is being fast for 18 laps in a row, and as I say, Jamie McKnight has just moved forward. I'm not sure whether he simply took his pit stop early or whether there's been an incident, but we do see Jamie McKnight has gone from pushing forward at a rapid rate of knots to suddenly finding himself a long way back in the back.
So interestingly, McKnight's actually recorded his pit stop. It looks like it was an early one. So on lap 3, he's taken his pit stop. Of course, remembering there is a compulsory pit stop for all drivers here tonight. And it's hard to remember that on just an 18-lap race. So we keep our eye now on Gary Buckland and Dylan Sipple changing places in the background. You'll see them just coming through the corner there and sliding all over the place. So the driver's starting to get a bit of comfort as this line dries out ever so slightly. They're going to start pushing these cars a little harder. But Jamie McKnight taking that early stop. In total, 46.77 in the lane, 12.6 in the bay. So it suggests to me that there might have been some tyres taken there despite the short race.
Yeah, 9 seconds give or take for a set of tyres in a supercar, so I'll be surprised if he's done tyres, but maybe there's more to play there than I realise, and maybe they do deliberately underfill them from the start so that they can really ensure that they have to take a decent length stop. But anyway, Jamie McKnight is back there. It'll be interesting to see where he starts to come out when we consider everyone else making their stops. It'll be interesting to see, because he was pushing forward, and he was up in front of Gary Buckland last time I saw. So he would be somewhere around about the back end of the top 10 now. So we'll keep an eye on that as we go. But Trav Hunt and Gary Buckland and Dylan Sipple all starting to make charges forward and ending up around about the back of the top 10. But right now we are looking at the battle for second: Spriggs, Logsdale, Thomas, Caparonis and Rankin. So Caparonis has had his ears boxed in a little bit and pushed back ever so slightly, but still doing a fantastic job there up in 5th place. And Spriggs has started to make a run for it, but an epic battle nonetheless for those for those podium positions. We do jump now to the battle for 10th. Buckland and Sipple absolutely going at it. So this has been going on for a number of laps, Jared. I don't know about you. I wouldn't like to be involved in this little skirmish. If it was me, I would have liked to have made a pass and got the heck out of there. But Gary Buckland is absolutely keeping Dylan Sipple honest.
Yeah, and they've got to keep their eyes on the mirrors, though. Trav Hunt is right there with them, and even the slightest hiccup, he'll be through before you know it. I think Sipple and Buckland I've seen change places about 5 or 6 times. You see Dylan Sipple getting very, very sideways out of that final corner onto the straight, but here comes Trav Hunt. So he's had just enough pace out of the corner to really challenge Buckland. Not going to do it into turn 1, and it would be a very, very brave or perhaps foolhardy driver that tries to make a pass through turn 1 in these conditions. It is a treacherous curve here at Red Bull Ring, isn't it?
It is, and really to make that pass move, you're almost guaranteed to ruin your run out of the corner. So what we saw Trav Hunt do there was simply settle back in behind Gary Buckland and try and get better drive out for the run up to turn 3, and we saw that he had a bit of a sniff, but ultimately Gary Buckland was very much awake to it. And put on the defensive line, but out of turn 3, Trav Hunt just able to get the better line and hold Gary Buckland across to the left and prevent that defensive line. The challenge now will be getting power to the ground as you see Trav Hunt's car moving around all over the place. That's a very difficult corner in these conditions. The cars just want to be sideways the whole time. So a fantastic bit of driving by both guys to not end up with their cars rotated around and facing the wrong way. It took him well over half a lap, but we have seen Trav Hunt be able to finally execute that pass.
That's a lot of work that's gone into that pass, so hats off to Trav Hunt for sticking at it and really taking it to him. And Gary Buckland pushing hard to hold him around every turn there. It really does demonstrate, though, doesn't it, the difference the rain makes. When you can't take that ordinary racing line, it gets very slippery, and so you saw Trav Hunt at a couple of occasions there, even though he was on what you'd ordinarily consider the best line, with the amount of rubber on the track, it just makes it so slippery that you can't get that power down, and that was what kept Gary Buckland in it for so long.
Yeah, and it's one of the most fun things about racing in these conditions is that it's not the normal racing that we're also used to. There's all sorts of different strategies and tactics that come into making passes, etc. But a bit of fantastic driving from everyone. But those two guys have just put in a real demonstration on how to drive with each other, respectfully, and make sure that those passing opportunities don't turn into a real mess, Jared.
Absolutely. I'm just going to bring up for a moment, if we take a look at the gap from the leader, take a look at your timing tower right now. Jamie McKnight, back in 16th, is just shy of 46 seconds behind Vanderkraan. Now, if the pit stops we're seeing so far are any indication, we've got anything from 43 through to about 52 seconds. There's a real chance that this undercut's going to work for Jamie McKnight. It's going to depend on just how much more distance Vanderkraan can put on before he takes his pit stop. But McKnight is within range, as you see him bring that down even further to sub 46 seconds now. There's a real chance that he's going to be able to make up this distance and come out ahead after that early pit stop. It may just play in his favour here.
Yeah, absolutely. And if we look at his lap times, he's been down to a 42.2, which is still quite a respectable lap time. But importantly, lots of people in front doing slower lap times than that, and certainly slower lap times than oh my gosh, Jared, my mind has gone completely blank. Jamie McKnight is the name I'm looking for. Apologies, folks. But Jamie McKnight has been putting in some nice fast laps. And of course, the benefit of pitting so early is that you get the track all to yourself. So he is starting to see some people pit now and come back to him, and he's having to navigate that. But by pitting on lap 3, he knows that we can get some really good lap times out of these, or some lap distances out of these tyres, and he's taken that opportunity to get in early, have the track all to himself, and just punch out consistent laps in the hope that Matt Vanderkraan up the front is driving a little bit easier, taking his time a little bit more, and maybe doesn't realise those times that McKnight is putting in. Tim Lawson in the chat did ask about, has anyone tested the tyres for tyre life? Look, I certainly haven't, but what I would say is that on a set of dries, I would be very, very comfortable doing an 18-lap race around here, and the wets historically wear significantly less when the track is wet than a dry would. So these guys will have absolutely no drama at all punching out an 18-lap race. As we're now looking at the battle for 8th, Nick Heusler and Trav Hunt absolutely going at it. Trav Hunt is all over the back of that Angry Birds car. I'll be interested to see whether he manages to get this done into the final complex. Once again, side by side, Trav Hunt, I think it has been side by side with the car more often tonight than not, and really putting some racecraft on display, racing incredibly respectfully and putting on some fantastic moves. And there's another one, being able to make that move on that last corner and still give Heusler the room that he deserves on the outside is a fantastic piece of racecraft. And we have now seen Trav Hunt move forward 16 positions, so no doubt some of those will have come as a result of some people pitting, but a fantastic result, or certainly a fantastic race for him so far.
Yeah, he's one to watch, and I think the only thing that's held him back from being further up the field is not setting
safety car, Jared, safety car.
Oh, we've had a safety car. There it is. We've just seen off the background. That's Daniel Sheriffs, who's had a huge incident there. Let's go back and see what's happened to him, because that's a very odd spot to end up crashing out. Let's go back and take a look at the incident here. And just getting very, very loose and sure enough into the barrier. And that sees him spun around at a very awkward part of the track. Now the only question is, how does he end up where he has? That's because that's an earlier incident there. I'm just wondering if he's actually had a bit more damage than he realised, because he's made it a fair way up from there before he's actually pulled it over and called the safety car in. And you can see him just pulling off to the side. And let's have a bit of a look and see if we can see. Look at the front left, the amount of damage he's carrying there in the wet. You don't really want to try and get that around the distance to the pits, do you?
I think that what you're about to see, Jared, from my experience with these supercars, a frontal impact like that, I think that's broken a radiator, and you're about to see an engine expire as it's overheated.
Well, look for that telltale puff of smoke. Nothing there. Oh, there it is. No, that's your
that could be the scene.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I'd be surprised. I'm not 100% sure. It doesn't seem like the sort of place that you would just pull up and sit if you didn't need to. I think that there's more to that. But what I can tell you, for our guys out the front, of course, I have seen on my screen a number of people diving in and out of the pit lane. Of course, ASR does allow their drivers to pit under the safety car, and so no doubt it's going to be a big win for a couple of our drivers. We were just talking about the fact that maybe Jamie McKnight has been able to sneak up on Matt Vanderkran, but I would now expect that Matt Vanderkran has been able to sneak that pit out under the safety car.
Now, Stephen Varga actually got out of the pits ahead of Jamie McKnight after his pit stop, so he stopped on lap 8. It gives you an idea, though, of just how much of a difference this safety car has made. Vanderkran, Spriggs, Rankin, Logsdale, Fisher, Caperonis, Nick Heusler, all ahead of Stephen Varga, have all come in and pitted under safety car, and unfortunately it means that all of the great time that the Vargs and Jamie McKnight were putting in it's not going to eventuate in anything for them, unfortunately. You see there the 24/7 Sim Services safety car leading the way around that Mustang GT3, as always, out on track to keep these drivers at the appropriate pace as we get that issue cleaned up, with Daniel Sheriffs on his way back to the pits now to get himself sorted, and hopefully not a huge amount of damage, and he can rejoin this race for what is left of this second half of race 1.
It's going to be interesting where, 11 laps in, let's say that it'll be another lap behind the safety car, so 12 laps in, a nice little 6-lap sprint to the finish. It's a bit of a shame for those guys that had pitted early and were trying to throw a bit of strategy in, but maybe a lesson learnt for race 2 being to just hold out and wait as long as you can for that reasonably inevitable safety car. While we're under safety car, Spriggs up 3, Rankin up 4, nice little result there for the back end of the podium. Trav Hunt, we've said his name a few times now. He's had a couple of weeks off, and he has come back absolutely refreshed. He has come up 15 spots. Jamie McKnight 7. Unfortunately, a couple of people who haven't won out tonight. Jeff Thomas is down 2, which is a shame after such a great qualifying position. But Jim Caperonis sitting in 6th. Hopefully he can hold his own for the next couple of laps. A fantastic opportunity for him to record a really good result.
Absolutely. It's look, I don't know if it's a Red Bull thing, Red Bull Ring thing, or if I've just not noticed it before, but something that strikes me as a bit different tonight, Josh. Usually under safety car, I don't think I've ever seen as many drivers weaving to keep heat in the tyres as we're seeing tonight. Usually they're pretty comfortable to just hang in behind the safety car, but if you take a look, there's all sorts of weaving going on here tonight, and that's honestly a little bit unusual from what we've seen in previous races. It really speaks to how concerned the drivers are with the tyre temps here in these conditions. The track temp with the rain on it, only about 16 degrees. So it's a very, very cold track, and they're going to really have to fight to keep any sort of heat in the tyres. Got to be worried about what's to come when the safety car does pull off the track.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a challenge. It's kind of like being all the way back at the race start again, except that you've now got some wear on those tyres. So those really nice sharp edges that push water away will be worn down, and the tyres will be performing, but nowhere near as well as you'd want them to. Unfortunately, I think that with the amount of weaving that these guys are able to do on a wet track, that it's a bit of a placebo. But as long as it makes them feel good, then we're more than happy for it to happen, and of course, these guys are going to get back to racing. I do know that I believe that the safety car will be in this lap. I did hear not that long ago that it was going to do one more, so this should be that lap, Jared. And I think that over the next couple of corners, we're going to see the call made for the safety car to accelerate away and hand over the control of the field to Mr. Vanderkraan. I'll be very interested to see his race strategy or restart strategy. He has been taking a habit of going very late recently, given that there's a couple of corners and a pretty short run. I think that you'll see him wait long again and just try and get that drive when the car's nice and straight and pointing up the main straight rather than trying to accelerate just before a corner.
Yeah, particularly with that last corner being such an odd camber, an odd-shaped final turn here at Red Bull Ring. It's not one that I'd want to be pushing my luck on a restart where your tyres have come down in temp. The rain's continued here. It's not a huge amount of rain, but it's probably enough to be re-wetting that dry line that these guys have been working so hard on for the better part of these 12 laps. And as we see the safety car now starting to pull away and head for the pits, so these drivers coming up and over the hill here at Red Bull Ring. Mark Vanderkraan, it's going to be his control, and he will be deciding when to get us back up and racing. And you can see all of these drivers starting to bunch up close behind him as we come down to that final turn. Oh, he's actually gone a little earlier than we perhaps expected. Just before that turn, accelerates away, gets a big jump. Can Spriggs respond? Looks like he has, and again, the traction problematic there. Rankin taking a huge look and actually trying to get some heat into the tyres down the main straight, leaving a snaking shape of spray behind him. But here we go. Once again, we are underway. Vanderkraan's lead that he had built up so meticulously over 12 laps of racing, now down to just half a second, and he's got a lot of work to do, but his pit stop under the start of that safety car is going to set him up well with some nice fresh tyres, I'm sure, and just the right amount of fuel that he can push it all the way to the end without having to worry too much about any fuel saving here tonight, Josh.
Yeah, no, there'll be no fuel saving now. It'll be hell for leather. As we do see a couple of cars come together, a bit of fantastic driver control there to back out of it and make sure that didn't turn into a bigger incident. I do believe that may be Trav Hunt involved.
Jeff Thomas and Matthew Stoyles.
Jeff Thomas.
Yeah, that came together. Stoyles just going into the back of Gary Buckland as well. as they try to pull up. Nick Heusler's found himself up in P7, so considering it's been, I think, a little while since we've seen him out on track, he's certainly showing he's got the form still here tonight. Van der Kraan already starting to extend that lead out in front. This is the first lap back from safety car, and he is looking to pull away. And now Spriggs, Rankin's right up the inside here. Can he make this one stick, or is he still too far back? They're side by side into the second to last corner, so Spriggs is going to have to try a bit of over-under. But Rankin on the better line is going to come out in P2, and now he's going to start to chase down Matt van der Kraan. We know that Scott Rankin is not slow by any means, so a real opportunity here for him to try and track down Matt van der Kraan as they come across the line. The timing boards update, and Scott Rankin gets the number 2 on his windscreen for at least this lap. Stephen Varga up the inside, and looks like he's going to make the move there on Nick Heusler. Heusler very, very careful there as Jamie McKnight challenges him. Trav Hunt goes past as well. And Jamie McKnight, I suspect, going to be looking to do the same as pack of 4, battling it out for 7th. McKnight going very, very wide of the ideal line, but it's going to be enough to see him through. Can he get the drive on the way out as they make mild contact? Dylan Sippel comes up behind and has to back out as well to avoid going into the back of Nick Heusler, and changes right up and down the field. Rick Vigar behind as well, has just had Gary Buckland go past him on the way out of that turn. So very, very tight exit on it, very slow speed at the best of times in a Gen 3 supercar. Those low speed corners are super difficult to get the power down. You bring it to a wet track like this and it just changes the game completely, doesn't it, Josh?
It absolutely does, and of course safety cars reinvigorate that racing, so we had seen some really healthy gaps emerge between people, but everybody now is back in there. They're bunched up, and maybe cars that they knew that they were slowly reeling in, it is absolutely time to make those passes and make them while you can, because the gaps between everyone will start to extend out. We can already see a number of people more than a second from the car in front. So it's pertinent when you do get a safety car restart that you get those moves done and you get them done quickly.
Have a look at Scott Rankin's time, a 1:41 flat. 1:41.07. I'm going to call that close enough for flat, Josh. I don't know about you, but I'm pretty comfy with that. That is quick, and more importantly, it's actually 0.2 faster than Matt van der Kraan, so he is looking to reel him in right now.
Yeah, I'd expect to see Van der Kraan issue a response on this lap. He was still doing 41.2, so there's still plenty of speed in the Angry Birds machine, but definitely Scotty Rankin has he's got head down, bum up, and he is doing what he can to move forward. As we see another move there, Dylan Sippel has been involved in plenty of moves tonight. He may not have qualified exactly how he wanted to, but he has not been scared to throw the car up the inside of someone else, and to give him credit, he has done it pretty cleanly every single time that we have certainly crossed him.
And to Jeff Thomas, no less, who was very quick in qualifying. Sippel certainly getting to grips with this car on the wet track as you see him get the power down and go very sideways on the exit, but fantastic to watch. Keep an eye though on Jeff Thomas to respond here, because he is right at the back. He's gone sideways. That's got to be my fault, doesn't it, Josh?
Look, I'm happy to blame you, that's for sure. I think a bit of fantastic driver control there for Jeff to gather it up, and I think it might have been
Stoyles in the background, yeah.
Yeah, ended up out wide to avoid an accident, but got himself back on track. So if ever anyone wanted to see some fantastic driver in car control, there it is. Unfortunately, I think for Jeff, just a little bit fast on corner entry, and maybe caught up to Dylan Sippel quicker than he realised, and when he started to squeeze on those brakes, just got a little bit of rear lock, and before he knew it, he was facing certainly a direction that he didn't want to be facing, but gathered it all back up again, and he's getting back about his racing. He's now tucked in behind Sattler, and I'm pretty confident that he will be very keen to get a move on, as Sattler does light up the rear tyres on the way out of turn 1 and has to immediately try and get back into the pack and get back about racing again. But unfortunately, that tardy exit has cost him a number of positions and a little bit of lap time. And Jared, if I can just go back to a previous comment and something that we've been talking about, I mentioned that I expected Matt Van der Kraan would respond to Scotty Rankin's lap time, and he absolutely has a 40.9. So we are down to qualifying speed, 16 laps into a race. If anyone thought that Matt Van der Kraan was going to allow Scotty Rankin to come up on the back of him and maybe look for a pass, that is absolutely not the race strategy that Matt Van der Kraan is employing at the moment.
No, definitely not. Jim Caperonis now in the battle with Dean Logsdale. They're on it for P4 right now. Logsdale back where he qualified, so done well. But keep an eye on Caperonis because he's been just teasing the back bumper there of Damon Fisher, the shark himself, under huge pressure from the Southern Cross Racing entry of Jim Caperonis, just dropping in and out of that 2/10 mark behind him, and Caperonis being very, very careful about it, as we have seen from him before, but definitely closing it up when he gets the opportunity. Dylan Sippel further back now as well. You can see him just in behind Nick Heusler, so look for him to make a move here shortly. And then further back, you've got, it just keeps going, doesn't it? Gary Buckland getting some attention from Peter Sattler, who's looking at the inside. Buckland's going a slightly more defensive line, just reminding Sattler that maybe there's not enough room to try that on here at turn one. But Sattler's going to give it a shot anyway, and finds himself side by side, makes the pass on Buckland, and further up the road, Sippel goes past as well. So on the outside, it's going to be difficult for him to get this over Nick Heusler. But it's all about that exit line, and Dylan Sippel finds the traction. Look at the drive out of that turn that he's just gotten.
Yeah, that's a fantastic line. That line, or that move, the over-under move, worked fantastically in the dry, but of course in the wet, slowed himself up a little bit more, turned tighter, and was able to get on the throttle significantly earlier. And of course, these cars respond best to accelerating when the steering wheel is pointed straight, and that's exactly what Dylan Sippel had, was significantly more time with that steering wheel pointing straight. So he absolutely just gave Nick Heusler a little bit of a lesson in how to make a pass work. And unfortunately for Heusler, he needs to get back about having another go and seeing whether he can execute it in a slightly different fashion.
Gary Buckland now looking to take that spot back from Peter Sattler. The battle here for 14th, as always, going on right up and down throughout the pack. Keep an eye, though, further up the pack is Trav Hunt, now challenging Caperonis for P6, and he'll have his eyes on Damon Fisher just up the road. Trav Hunt up 17 positions right now. Huge moves.
I was going to make the call out just a second ago, Jared. You were talking about how Caperonis has put together another, really careful and respectful drive, and he has absolutely been pretty happy to take his time and make sure the passes work. But that is not something that I would say about Trav Hunt tonight. He has had a fantastic race, but patient is not the word that I would use to describe it.
Never. No, I'd never say that about Trav Hunt. He is always on the move. And to be up now 18 positions from where he started on this final lap, as Matt Van der Kraan looks set to take the win in race one. Keep an eye on Trav Hunt challenging from P6 off the start line in race two. I reckon we're going to see a real battle on our hands within a couple of laps.
It's going to be fantastic. One thing I'll call out really quickly before we look at the finishes coming across the line, Gary Buckland has tumbled down the order and unfortunately has put a request into race control for an incident we looked at. So I would suggest that battle that we were watching ever so slightly, a couple of laps ago, has unfortunately cost Gary Buckland a few positions. But we are now heading towards the finish line. And we do flick across to the man in the number 180, Matt Van der Kraan, as he comes through the very last corner. You certainly wouldn't expect any dramas from here. A fantastic drive from Matt Van der Kraan, has led lots of flags, maybe got a little bit lucky with his strategy, but what a fantastic race. And as we see Scotty Rankin come in second, and Spriggs crosses the line in third, only just in front of Dean Logsdale. Damon Fisher for a Team AJR 4-5, and then Trav Hunt, probably the driver of the race, up 18 positions to cross the line in sixth.
Absolutely huge. Trav Hunt's, Tim Lawson just asking about Trav Hunt's lap times. His best was at 1:41.29, so still not even fastest on track, but just super consistent right throughout and getting the right moves done at the right time. And that's going to be all it takes as we see the last of our drivers crossing the line here and making their way into the mist as people use up the last of those rain tyres, because why wouldn't you? Honestly,
Yeah,
Phil
I think
Marsh
that
coming
was,
across back in
there was
24.
more smoke and less mist, Jared, but
look,
no doubt some people having some fun, and that's what we like to see.
Absolutely. So Heat 1 comes to a close, and the finishing positions look just a little bit as we wait for them to be official. There we go, Heat 1. Matt Vanderkran takes the win ahead of Scott Rankin and Jason Spriggs. And while we've got him, let's take an opportunity to chat to the man himself. Scott Rankin, how are you, my friend?
Oh, mate, I tell you what, I must have been banking all of my good luck for this race, because I've had about 5 races in a row where if something can go wrong, it does.
Well, tonight it's all gone right for you. A P2 in race 1. Not a bad start to a very wet evening at Red Bull Ring. How'd you find the conditions out there?
Look, it's treacherous, but to be perfectly honest, that's the best I've driven. I wasn't able to put it together in practice at all. I got home really, really late tonight, and I was actually writing articles for a whole bunch of series to try and boost the bits and pieces I've got to do for commentary this week. And I jumped in with about 20 minutes to go, and I'm sitting there at the end of practice going, you know what? I'm just going to send it in quali. If it doesn't stick, I don't want to do tonight from the middle of the field. And I went, top 10, we can do something from there. And then it just kept getting better and better and better. And basically, I figured it out on the last lap of quali, and then I kept figuring it out the whole way through the race. So really, really happy with that.
Well, I think figuring it out's a great way to put it. Scotty to drive from 7th to 2nd, so look, a fantastic drive. I'm really interested to understand your pit strategy. So obviously managed to dive in behind the safety car. Was that a bit of a plan, or did it just fall nicely that way?
Look, the only way I was going to undercut, basically the plan there was I was going to run as long as I physically could, and then from there sort of let things eventuate. I have a trick up my sleeve that I'll tell you guys if this next one goes really, really well, but I want to hold that card a little while longer. But yeah, there is definitely something you can do, and I think it definitely showed itself for those that know what they're looking for under that safety car.
Interesting. Okay, look, I am hoping to see a top 3 finish, because I want to hear more about this at the end of race 2. So no pressure, Scott Rankin, but expecting to see you back here in the booth with us in about 18 laps time, mate. Well done, and a fantastic drive in race 1, starting on the front row for race 2. Anyone you've got your eye on either ahead or in the mirror to keep an eye out for in race 2?
Mate, eyes on Matty Vanderkran. He's a wheel spin master, so I'm expecting him to just light it up for me and give me a gift down to T1.
Oh, is that all you're asking for? Not much at all.
I actually messaged him after the race and said, hey, Matty, any chance of a donated win there at all?
Love it. Scott Rankin, congratulations. We'll see you out on track for race 2, and we'll keep a close eye on you, mate.
All right, good to see us.
Cheers. And our winner for race number 1, Matt Vanderkran, joins us in the booth for what must be about the 14th time this season, I swear. Matty, well done. A challenging race in the wet, wasn't it?
No, yeah, that's hard work. It was great fun, but hard work. And well done, Scotty Rankin. He had some serious good pace on at the end. He made me work harder than I wanted to.
Yeah, and that safety car certainly did you know favours either, did it? You had about a 4-second lead there, and all of a sudden, half a second back.
Yeah, I didn't really want to see that there, but anyway, yeah, good fun. It's, you just got to try and keep it as smooth as you can, which in those, particularly the first lap on green tyres, is a great challenge.
Yeah, it's we saw a lot of weaving there under the safety car, particularly. Not something we've seen a lot of in other races. We've had the safety car come out. You're finding tyre temps a bit of a challenge tonight with the cold and wet conditions, or just a little bit of extra precaution to try and give you that pace to get away again after the safety car peeled off?
Nah, tyre temps early on, you're on ice skates on that first lap. You got to be getting mega cautious and So yeah, look, to be honest, I don't think the weaving did anything. It's a time.
Well, mate, look, we've only about 30 seconds to go before we get into race 2. We'll let you get back into it, but congratulations on another win under your belt, tightening that stranglehold on the championship, and we will keep an eye on you off the front row again here in race 2. Well done, mate.
Thanks, boys. Have a good call. Cheers, mate.
Thank you.
Matt Vanderkraan, look, really all to do here in race 2, but if he walks away with 2 wins here tonight, Josh, I mean, we've already said it, it's going to be really, really hard for anyone to catch him in this championship.
Yeah, it will be. It's already hard. 1 win tonight. That's going to make it. That's going to make it hard as well. But as we see the guys start to grid up again now, it's going to be a really good race. It'll be good to see. How a couple of guys go about the start of this race. Trav Hunt, I'm interested to see. Probably didn't have the overall, 1 lap speed to really draw people like Vanderkraan and Rankin in. But can he move forward now that the field's all bunched up again? And for our other, guys at the front, I'm not sure whether you realised, Jared, but on the second last lap, I think it was, Logsdale punched out the fastest lap of the race with a 40.9. So it's definitely, excuse me, there's definitely a few people floating around in that top 5 that absolutely have the ability to win. Now it's all about whether they can keep up with Vanderkraan as he does his now famous bolt from the start line and draw out that lead on the first couple of laps.
Absolutely. As we take a quick look through the grid here for race 2, Vanderkraan and Scott Rankin will line up side by side at the front of this grid for race number 2. Jason Spriggs and Dean Logsdale, then Damon Fisher and Travis Hunt in row 3. Jim Capronis and Stephen Varga, with Jamie McKnight and Dylan Sipple rounding out the top 10 ahead of Jeff Thomas and Matthew Stoyles. Further back, we've got Nick Heusler and Peter Sattler, the teammates, lining up on row 7 ahead of team owner Rick Viggar and Troy Sipple alongside Rick Viggar, the 2 figureheads of this Alliance Sim Racing Series. In row 8 will go at it off the start line. Michael Hayes and Dane Nothdurft starting in 17th and 18th, and Gary Buckland and Joseph Granshaw ahead of Craig Rose and Lucas Burt. Anita Buckland and Philip Marsh ahead of them, and then of course Daniel Sheriffs, with that unfortunate incident, will be starting from the back for this race, assuming that he makes it back on track. Nathan Allen getting a couple of laps in there as a safety car. Tim Nicol staying out of the car for now.
I've just done some quick math, Jared, while we've still got just a moment to go. So I had a look in the break. These cars have got 50 laps in them across 18 laps. That's 2.7 litres available per lap, which I think is right on the money. So I think that these guys tonight maybe don't need fuel and the small simple choices to quickly grab a couple of tyres. But I don't know. I'm interested to see what Scotty Rankin was alluding to.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm not sure if he was talking safety car or if he was talking the actual lines he's taking. It sounded a little bit like he was talking about something under safety car there that he has up his sleeve. But yeah, we'll see if we get him back in the booth later and just dig into that a little bit, because I'm really curious to know what his secret sauce is here tonight.
Yeah, I took it as a comment about his pit stop strategy, but nonetheless, hopefully we get him back in the booth and we can quiz him a little bit more.
I'm all about getting some inside knowledge if we can. We are just about to go racing again. We'll go down to the track and we go to starters' orders once again. The gridding is completed. We go to the lights. Lucas Burt looking to start from the pits for this race, as we are away for race number 2. And Matt Vanderkraan, as always, a fantastic start off the line, and we get underway on our way down to turn 1. Look, probably a little more aggressive, I would think, into turn 1 here than perhaps what these drivers were running in the wet earlier, Josh. But long way to go. It's still early here, and we will see what they've got up the sleeve as we make our way around.
And I predicted this at the start of race 1. Get yourself 18 laps of racing under the belt, and you will magically become far more aggressive on lap 1, race 2. But they have done a fantastic job so far of all pointing the right direction. And interesting to see Lucas Burt, who in all reality had a pretty good starting position, decide to bail on a mid-pack start and take a pit lane start. I do kind of understand the theory of avoiding the chaos, and it looks like Dylan Sickle has failed to make the start move at all, Jared.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what's happening as we see Joseph Granshaw's gone around, and that is contact with Anita Buckland by the look of things, and here comes Lucas Burt avoiding the chaos and just rolling on through. So we'll go back and we'll take another look at that one. Let's see just how they've come together here, and it looks like he's just run a bit wide. Anita Buckland also under brakes running a bit wide, and bit of contact all around. All in all, reasonably light. Oh no, that must have been one of the other elements. It was Daniel Sheriffs, I think, who made the initial contact with Granshaw by the look of things.
Yeah, pretty typical wet mistake to make there. With just a simple run wide under brakes. I mentioned earlier, Jared, that is an incredibly difficult braking zone, no matter what. And so the fact that it's taken us this long to see someone bowl a wide down there while there's a car beside them is kind of surprising to me. But in reality, pretty minor damage, and a bit of a shame for Granshaw that he ended up out there and getting a tag. And he's dived into pits now, maybe a little bit of damage to that car, but not a bad time to complete your compulsory pit stop, and no doubt going to have some nice clean track just to punch out lap after lap after lap.
Absolutely. Scott Rankin there still in P2, but look at the pack piling up behind him. He's got Spriggs, Logsdale, Fisher, Stephen Varga, Jim Caparonis, Trav Hunt, all reasonably close behind, all within really just a few seconds, which is not probably as far as he'd like, but he starts to open it up here. Damon Fisher getting the pass taken on him by Jim Caparonis, but he finds himself on the inside of this turn as they go side by side. Trav Hunt behind them has nowhere to go, so he's not going to be able to make the most of this, but he looks up the middle of the two, has a big look at it, and finds himself instead on the back of Caparonis as they make their way past the Red Bull, the big bull up on the hill there. I'm sure it's got a name that I can't pronounce, Josh. But it is a long sweeping left-hand turn, that one.
It is. It's a very difficult turn as well. In the dry, you really do climb all over curbs, but of course that becomes very, very treacherous in the wet. So again, more fantastic driving display as we see the boys absolutely crack sideways on the exit of the last turn. What a fantastic show. It is one of the most entertaining things about racing in the wet, is just watching all of the cars behaving poorly, but these guys really putting on a good show. Jim Caparonis there lights it up and ends up on the other side of the racetrack, so that will cost him a bit of time, but Trav Hunt back up to his old games and all over the back of Fisher. So does he have enough to get a pass done here? Hanging to the outside, he's going to look for that over-under move. He's going to try and pull it in tighter and get the drive off the line, but he hasn't been able to do that.
Yeah, it's a bit of a rough one as we see a black flag for Daniel Sheriffs, unsurprisingly, for that contact earlier with Joseph Granshaw. Trav Hunt is just hanging around there at the moment, but this pack that we're looking at, Varga, Fisher, Hunt, Caparonis, McKnight, the couple ahead of them as well in terms of Rankin, Spriggs, Logsdale, all really pushing hard and all over the track at the moment. I don't know if anyone noticed the lap times last time around, though. Vanderkraan out in front of 41.32, a 41.75 for Rankin, and then a 42 flat for Spriggs. So Vanderkraan and Rankin pushing hard, and you can see that starting to open up now. A 2.5 second gap almost that Vanderkraan's got ahead of Rankin, and he's going to have to put some work into reel Vanderkraan back in. And there it is, the drive-through penalty for car number 52, which is, of course, Daniel Sheriffs for that contact.
It's not surprising. It's probably the penalty that you deserve when you make a mistake like that. But such an easy mistake to make. He'll serve his drive-through and just get back about his racing. I'm sure that he kind of expected to see that pop up.
Speaking of expecting things to pop up, I don't know, again, if you caught that one, Josh, but a 140.91 for Matt Vanderkraan on that lap.
Yeah, he is a man on a mission. He's left Scotty Rankin doing 41.6s, Spriggs doing 41.7s, and
which is not slow either.
No, absolutely not. It's not slow, but I'm not sure whether everyone else caught it. Obviously here we've really got the eyes on Fisher Caperonis and Hunt, and particularly Hunt and Fisher as they came out of turn one were completely sideways. That would have been a whole heap of opposite lock in those cars, and they've done firstly a fantastic job to keep it on track. They've done a fantastic job at entertaining us, and unfortunately done an absolutely horrific job at improving their lap times, but it is good racing. Caperonis has been able to grab a position off Hunt, so Hunt will immediately go back on the Hunt to try and get that position back. But these guys, if you thought that they were going to continue tiptoeing around, think of the first 18 laps as a bit of a dress rehearsal to understand what the car does and where it doesn't. And now they are absolutely going hammer and tongs to make this work.
Absolutely, as we see for Stephen Varga's benefit more than anything, we'll bring his quantum livery back here for race 2 as we reload some of these liveries for these guys. I'm not quite sure what the issue is tonight, but seems to be sorting itself out as we get them updated. Varga actually up 3 spots in P5 right now. He's got himself a little bit clear of the fight going on behind him as we see Trav Hunt taking a big look up the inside of Caperonis to turn 1. Jamie McKnight dealing with Jeff Thomas wanting to get through as well. So the two JWM Sim Sports entries, as in the background you can see Jeff Thomas getting it done and on the right side for this turn, so we'll see if he can hold off McKnight here. But Scott Rankin just ahead in that corner under all sorts of pressure from Logsdale and Spriggs now. They are all over the back of him, and it's almost like a well-timed attack that's been orchestrated here as Logsdale and Spriggs go side by side, nothing in it. It's hard to tell if they're battling each other or if they're both just focused on Rankin right now.
All of the above, I think, Jared. Scotty Rankin definitely made a bit of a mistake on the last lap of 42.1. So, you know, a full second slower than Matt Vanderkraan. And that's just let Logsdale and Spriggs absolutely back into this fight. So he'll be doing his best to get back on with it and try and pull a little bit of that gap back. But of course, it is far, far easier in everything motor racing to lose time than it is to gain it. So unfortunately, he has put himself back there with those other guys, making it a three-way battle for second, and he's made his bed and now he's got a line in it.
Take a look at that time, that interval between Vanderkraan and Rankin just counting up as the lap progresses. Rankin's made a bit of time up there on the final corner, but it was just going up and up and up and was up to just over 5 seconds for a bit there before he hit that final turn. As we see Jay McKnight going in for the early pit stop, as does Troy Sipple from Quantum Racing. So these guys hoping to get that stop in early and make the most of it. It's a tough call after seeing what happened in race 1 with that safety car. You're running a bit of a risk, aren't you?
Yeah, you definitely are. And if you want to talk about the damage that battling with someone does to your race, Jared, Scotty Rankin that lap of 42.8, battling Jason Spriggs doing a 43.0, Logsdale doing a 43.2. So they're all right about that 43 flat mark. Matt Vanderkraan on his own, 41.2 out the front. So Matt Vanderkraan is absolutely looking at his relative at the moment, begging these guys to continue fighting with each other. You know, for our entertainment, I love to see it. For the possibility of a tight race finish, it's probably not the best way to go about it.
Maybe not for P1 at least, but hey, we'll have a great battle for P2 and P3 if it stays in this kind of shape, with Rankin, Spriggs and Logsdale all still battling it out. Trav Hunt makes a move on Jim Caperonis, so he's going to be looking up the road to Stephen Varga in the Quantum Camaro just ahead. And these guys, look, it's pretty well settled at the moment. We're about a third of the way through this race. Still plenty of moves to be made. Stephen Varga's up 3 spots in P5. Trav Hunt's only just recovered to his starting position now of P6. The biggest mover right now, probably Phil Marsh, up 10 spots. However, I suspect there's probably a little bit of extra positions there from the pit stops we've had so far. So Jay McKnight and Matthew Stoyles, the leaders of those who have done their compulsory stop so far this race. Let's just go out for a moment to take a look back up front here. You can see Rankin's just not having any luck at all, pulling away from Spriggs and Logsdale. They are, although, all into 141, so again, that battle's just sort of sorted itself out a little bit, and these guys are looking to put the time in and reel Vanderkraan in, perhaps. As we see Spriggs, though, looking up the inside of turn 3, pushes Rankin wide. Let's see who's got the drive out of the corner, though, and Rankin just gets it done and maintains P2. So a lot of pressure still, and that's going to chew more time out of their lap and allow Vanderkraan to get further away as he extends his lead to over 5 seconds for just a few moments there again. So Vanderkraan maybe not quite as quick through some sections, but he's really maintaining that 5-second gap right now.
Yeah, he's continuing to eke that gap out a little bit, and one thing that I would say, Jared, if I could put money on it, it would be that Spriggs and Logsdale are certainly not thinking about working with Rankin to move forward towards Matt Vanderkraan. Those guys think that the fastest way to get to Matt Vanderkraan is to get around Scotty Rankin. So if there is one person in the group that really wants to work together, it is Scott Rankin. I'm sure that if you got on the phone to him and asked what the best strategy is, it would be work with me, drive forward, let's keep this thing moving forward. But of course, if you are behind Scotty Rankin and feel like you're being held up, you absolutely just want to get around those guys that are in front of you.
Absolutely. Further back in the pack, as we take a look, Jamie McKnight and Matthew Stoyles, the leaders on track currently, but behind them, Craig Rose from Quantum Racing just dropped a couple of spots there, so had a bit of a moment, I suspect, and that's put him
Safety car.
Oh, what's happened there? Phil Marsh has gone around.
He has. I was just about to call out. Phil Marsh has been all over the radio asking for something to be looked at, and then I saw him on the exit of turn 1 by the look of it.
So coming out of the pits, he's lit it up.
Oh, no.
Across, and that's not great. I'm a little bit of a loss there as to what this has been on the radio asking about the tow, I suppose.
Yeah, he's definitely been on the radio asking for a tow. It's such an easy thing to do coming out of any pit lane, but especially a wet one. And I wasn't sure who the car was. But goodness me, how lucky was that for Lucas Burt. So Jared, I don't know whether we can organise an in-car shot of Lucas Burt, but if you wanted any job in racing, I suggest that it's not to be Lucas Burt's dry cleaner at the moment, because I think that there's a few issues going on there.
Have a look at that, so close. Jeez. Yeah, there's going to be a bit of a brown pants moment there. Thankfully, plenty of water around to wash it all away. It's that was a lot closer than I think anyone would have liked it to be at that point. Here come the pit stops. So Vanderkraan's in, Rankin's in, Spriggs, Varga, Logsdale, Caperonis, Nico Wesler, Gary Buckland, Rick Viggar all going in. Trav Hunt, the current leader of those who have made their stop, and I suspect he might have just been in the right place at the right time to get in on lap 7 and find himself here. But the question is, as you see, he's still pushing it hard to try and get to the end of the pits ahead of as many as he can here. Vanderkraan and Rankin are on their way out. Varga's on the way out of the pits as well. And here they all come. So let's see where Trav Hunt ends up. He's pushing hard to make up some positions here. Obviously no speed limiter for him.
It'll be a big race to the control line. He will beat some of the cars to it. There is actually a control mark on the road, so it'll be a big battle there. And I think he's got there in front of Spriggs. It's going to be very, very tight. We might be able to go and have a look at that, Jared. It is so tight to that control line to see who made it there first.
Let's have a look, and we might go back just a little way to see this, but let's see what we can see here. As we let's get to the overhead cam, because I think this is going to be the most useful for us. You can see him coming around this corner. Let's slow it down here. Fairly comfortably in the end. But yeah, that's going to be enough for him to claim that spot. Finds himself in P4. Tell you what, halfway through the race, Vanderkraan only a few spots up. All of the pit stops done now. We are in for a sprint finish here.
Yeah, nice little safety car right at the midpoint, throwing us just enough strategy. So obviously Trav Hunt, he was maybe in the pits at the time that the safety car was called, or maybe it was one lap earlier. I did notice that he had dived in for early pit stop. and it's provided a nice little juicy storyline there. So enough strategy that Trav Hunt was able to make some positions. Potentially Stephen Varga jumping Spriggs in the pits.
Yeah,
maybe?
he got out of the pit very, very quickly up into P3. So
nice
great result for Vargs there. Look, the thing I'm watching here, Scott Rankin, he told us after race 1 that he had something up the sleeve for his pit stop. I don't know quite what it is that he's done, but his time in the pit's incredibly quick, sub 8 seconds in the box.
Yeah, so that's I can assure you that is no tyres. So he has found a way.
Litre of fuel. That's it.
Look, it'd be a little bit more than a litre, but I'm not sure how many litres these guys use per lap. And I think that's going to be just enough of a splash and dash to make it happen. But if we have a look here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cars that I can see that have spent less time in the bay than it would take to take tyres. So I reckon that's maybe what Scotty Rankin found, and that's that ability. That's that ability to do a pit stop, get the car up on jacks without taking tyres. And just while I can, Jared, confirming that I have heard from race control that the safety car will be in this lap. So just one more under safety car, and then an 8-lap sprint to the finish.
Absolutely. We saw the times pop up just there for a moment. We'll take another look at it. So the actual time spent in the pit box for each of these drivers, you can see Scotty Rankin there is 7.8 for Nick Heusler as well. A couple of 8 seconds, but broadly speaking, you're talking 9+ for all of these drivers. I reckon you're on the money. It's just pulling the tyres from it and still getting up on the jacks with just a litre of fuel or so to be added could be enough to get you those couple of seconds. I don't think it's made a huge difference here for Scott Rankin, just given the nature of being under safety car. I don't think it's perhaps given him the boost that he might have had in mind for it. But
I think the one thing, Jared, that I'll call out is that if he still has some residual heat in his tyres, they are going to be far better on lap 1 than Van der Kraan taking cold, wet tyres. So it won't be a huge amount of heat left, but I can assure you that Matt Van der Kraan will have absolutely no heat in those tyres at all, and he can weave backwards and forwards all he wants. He will not generate enough friction on the road to push heat into those tyres, and I think that what Scott Rankin is relying on is he has one shot and one shot only. And that is to utilise whatever residual heat is left to get in front of Matt Van der Kraan. And I'm going to make the call early for potential drama. So, he is going to be desperate to get a pass made, and will we see a mistake?
Anything can happen here. The 24/7 sim services safety car getting ready to pull away from the pack and leave it in the control of Matt Van der Kraan as we get ready to go green flag racing again. We're down to 9 laps really to go, probably 8 on this next pass, and 8 laps is not a long time. You're talking about 15 minutes of racing left. Scott Rankin is going to be pushing hard. Right now, you see him sticking to the rear bumper of Matt Van der Kraan like glue as we jump on board. And this is the view back from Van der Kraan's car. Rankin looking for every bit of slipstream, even under pace car speeds by the look of things. But he is sticking to the back of Matt Van der Kraan. Let's stay on board here and see what happens as Van der Kraan looks for his opportunity to make the jump. Little way to go yet, but take a look at Scott Rankin.
Touch there under safety car. Scott Rankin is desperate to get racing again, and there we go. Matt Van der Kraan has made the jump, exactly the same spot as he did last time, and exactly the same result. He has grabbed almost half a second by the time that he's got to the control line. Scotty Rankin will be desperately hoping that Matt Van der Kraan's tyres need him to tiptoe, and there you go, straight into the first into the first braking zone. Scotty Rankin, warm tyres, able to lean on the brakes a bit harder, has drive out of the corner immediately and is desperately looking for a way past. He's absolutely all over the back of Van der Kraan. Can he get the braking done into turn 3? There we go, up the inside, very close to a touch. How does he go on the drive out of the corner? He is on the throttle hard, side by side, in the way into the turn 4. Very difficult downhill turn braking application here. And of course, Matt Van der Kraan done a fantastic job getting out of turn 3 and being able to get the power down. Jared, could we have asked for a more exciting safety car restart?
Absolutely not. And this is, I think, what Scott Rankin may have been talking about as he gets the line and starts to get the drive. He's put his nose out in front. Van der Kraan has to tuck in behind. So for the first time this race, Van der Kraan not leading is now chasing Scott Rankin. And Rankin's going to have to put in a stellar effort here, though, to hold him off for the rest of this race. Still a long way to go, and there's going to be a lot of pressure on him. Let's stick with it. There's a lot of movement behind. Of course, the battle pack continues in the background, and we will keep an eye out for any moves there. But this is where it's all at right now. Matt Van der Kraan is chasing Scott Rankin for that number 1 spot. The Angry Birds driver is looking to come back, but take a look behind. That is Travis Hunt all over the back of Matt Van der Kraan. He's made his way up through the pack and is joining this battle for the podium. This is going to be right to the death. I'm calling it now. It's going to be a very, very close finish.
Now, one thing that we've seen, Jared, Matt Van der Kraan, incredibly fast when he's out the front and when he's on his own. But what is his overtaking skill like in the wet? The guy behind him has passed just about more cars than anyone else all night. And of course, Scotty Rankin had a reasonable amount of passing practice in the first race. Those guys have done their practice tonight and they are pretty comfortable racing other cars. Matt Van der Kraan, he hasn't had that same opportunity. He hasn't been around other cars. How does he respond? How does he go when he's driving on different lines because he's being forced wide by other people and things like that? Can he keep up that pace now that he's well and truly out of the rhythm that he has enjoyed for so long tonight?
Take a look at this battle pack and the names in it, though. Scott Rankin from Wanted Goons, Matt Van der Kraan, the AA West Automotive Angry Birds Racing entry, Travis Hunt from JWM Sim Sports, Stephen Vargas up there in P4, up 4 spots from his start for the Quantum Tint Solutions Quantum Racing entry. And then Jason Spriggs, one of our championship front runners from Accelerate Sim Racing in P5, Dean Logsdale from Team AJR in P6. These guys all separated by barely 2 seconds front to back.
Yeah, and we saw, I'm not sure whether you picked up on it there, Jared, but a wildly different line between the fast sweeping turns there around the back of the circuit with Scotty Rankin doing everything he could to stay off the painted ripple strips, but Matt Van der Kraan happy to absolutely monster them, and we have seen Van der Kraan just pull that gap back in ever so slightly, and we do see these guys come across the line. So Scotty Rankin has done his fastest lap with a 41.2, Matt Van der Kraan with a 41.8. So Van der Kraan has absolutely got his tyres up to temp now, and will be doing everything he can to drag Scotty Rankin back in. Obviously, we've talked about it a couple of times now. Scotty Rankin doesn't have the absolute outright pace that some of those guys behind him do, but can he hold the lead? As we now see Spriggs on for a pass on Varga. Logsdale absolutely jumping in to try and come through. He saw that there was a door open and he wanted in, as we see these guys in a big drag race all the way down the hill to turn 4. The Spriggs has got the inside line. Can he get it pulled up? And no, he can't. Sideways. He has immediately lent onto Varga and pushed him out wide. Unfortunately, there we see Varga losing a heap of positions, and unsurprisingly, my headset has absolutely lit up with Vargs all over the radio asking for that to be looked at. So I would not be at all surprised to see some sort of a penalty handed out. Unfortunately, those two guys really rubbing on each other on the braking run down into turn 4, and Varg's almost being turned.
Lucky, yeah, and look, it's only the extreme skill behind the wheel that Steve Varga has that stops him from being turned around there. That was a fantastic save. We didn't catch all of it. on the live shot. We might go back and take another look as we see these guys sort themselves out. Jamie McKnight now, though, up in Nick Heusler's business. He's right on the inside line. Have a look at this pack coming down the main straight. The front runners all spread out, but these guys side by side on the exit. As we see Gary Buckton looking up the inside, Jamie McKnight looking up the inside. We're almost thinking about going 3 wide into turn 1 there for a moment. Buckland gets the additional braking done and almost decides to shoot up the inside just to save from running into the back of McKnight. But these guys absolutely pushing hard. In the background, look at Rick Figger now under pressure. Matthew Stoyles coming through on him for P11. So the battle is raging right throughout this pack. Keep an eye here, side by side, Viggar and Stoyles into turn 3. Viggar's got the opportunity to take the alternative line, but he's going to be cut off a little by Peter Sutton. They can't get across. Can he get the drive down? He's stuck behind Stoyles for the moment. And this battle continues. We're on lap 14 of 18. There's not much left in this race, but these guys are fighting it out to the absolute end.
Now, Jared, I'm not sure what's happened. I've been keeping a really close eye on the gap between Rankin and Vanderkraan. Rankin was another 10th faster. They crossed the line with just on a second between them. Something has happened. Vanderkraan's had a little bit of a moment in the braking area, perhaps. He's now pushed out. It was just over 1.2. So that gap continues to be a bit like an accordion and extend and contract. But Rankin doing a fantastic job at the moment of putting in fast lap after fast lap. He's actually put in his race best 2 laps in a row. He's down to a 41.2 for his fastest lap, with Vanderkraan doing 41.3, Trav Hunt doing 41.3. So the guys out the front are absolutely on the pace, as we do see them come to the line again. A 41.5 for Scotty Rankin and a 41.4 for Matt Vanderkraan. So these guys have both lost a couple of tenths in that lap as Spriggs dives up the inside of Trav Hunt, who gets it very sideways on the way through turn 1. I think that's the first time all night, Jared, that we've seen Trav Hunt go backwards in a position. Spriggs up onto the back of the podium. He is going to be an excited man, and he is absolutely going to be on a charge as we see Vanderkraan closing into within 8 tenths at the front. This race is absolutely heating up. A bit over 3 laps to go, Jared. I don't know about you, but I'm not sure that the podium positions are sorted out just yet.
No, absolutely not. Let's go back and take a really quick look at Stephen Varga's moment a little earlier on. So you can see here Spriggs on the inside as they come down towards that turn, side by side. I'm hoping we've got the right moment here. So we pull it up and Spriggs just on the outside. No, so Varga's fine there.
Next corner, Jared.
We'll go, so fine through that corner. Here we go. Let's get a closer shot of this if we can. If you want to stay overhead, it'll give us a better idea of the line here. So under brakes, Varga starts to turn in. Spriggs keeps his line reasonably straight. Oh, geez, mate, I don't know. I'm no steward, but I reckon there's going to be a bit of a racing incident in that one.
Yeah, look, I'm going to call that a racing incident. Vargs wasn't pushed all the way up against the line. Excuse me, Jared. That to me just looked like 2 drivers who maybe tried to drive on the same piece of track. Neither of them entirely in the wrong. That's an unfortunate racing incident. Of course, we don't like seeing people push off the track, but I would be very surprised to see that penalised.
Yeah, absolutely. And take a look at Scott Rankin at 141.15. So his best lap for this race, a 41.15, and indeed the almost the best lap of the race overall. Dean Logsdale still holding that at 41.12, but Rankin is slowing down for absolutely nobody right now. Pulls another 10th and a half out of Vanderkraan last lap, as we see an update there from the race control just flashing across your screens. And no incident there. Car 868, which is Stephen Varga. So no further action for the incident with car number 14, which of course is Jason Spriggs. It was indeed deemed a racing accident, and racing incident rather. And such is racing in the wet. These things happen.
Yeah, look, it is unfortunate. On the outside there, I doubt that Vargs realised that he was just starting to drift across. But unfortunately, when you're racing as close as we do in these cars, sometimes you will touch, and it's so easy to lose some time in these cars, especially in the wet. But it's just one of those things, and Vargs he's lost a few positions, but he'll still be okay. He's only down to 7th. He's got a little bit of a gap behind, so he'll just be moving forward, seeing whether he can maybe grab Caperonis at the end. But I am seeing his times aren't the best. He may be carrying just a little bit of damage.
Now let's keep an eye up front though, because Matt Vanderkraan, a 1:41.11, is now within a second as Scott Rankin gets very, very loose on the exit of turn 1. So Vanderkraan's starting to reel him in. 2 laps to go here. Sorry, 3. No, two. I can still count. Jeez, don't mind me, Josh. It's been a week of racing, hasn't it? But Scott Rankin is now going to face probably the most intense pressure, I suspect. Yeah, he's gone a bit wide there, but Vanderkraan's not got the drive out of the corner either. So thankfully for Rankin, that's not really caused too much grief for him. But you can tell that he's going to be feeling the pressure. He's going to know that Vanderkraan is absolutely breathing down his neck right now.
Now, Jared, I'm very interested to see Scotty Rankin's lap times. One of 2 things will happen on this lap, in my opinion. We'll either see another lap somewhere in the vicinity of a 41.5, indicating that Rankin thinks that he can hold Mr. Vanderkraan behind him for another lap, and he's driving safe, making sure he doesn't make any mistakes. Or we'll see another fast time, and that would indicate to me that Scotty Rankin absolutely thinks that he can outdrive Vanderkraan and can put in a lap fast enough to get this done. Given that our interval is all the way back to 0.3 of a second, I think that what we're seeing here is a driver in Scott Rankin who thinks that they can do enough to hold Matt Vanderkraan behind, and doesn't want to do anything that's going to see him slip wide, etc. So as we do see them cross the line and we see their times pop up, sure enough, Scotty Rankin with a 41.8. And Matt Vanderkraan with a 41.6. If you think that it is over for the minors, Trav Hunt did a 40.8 for the fastest lap of the race, only to be held for less than a second when Dean Longsdale passed the finish line with a 40.7. Those guys back in the minors are absolutely fighting for it. We are now on the last lap. We see Scotty Rankin just get it stopped at the turn 3 hairpin, and then gets the drive off. He has ever so slightly snuck the lead out to Matt Vanderkraan. He is going to be absolutely focused on hitting apexes, making sure he doesn't do anything silly. He thinks that he's got the ability to hold Vanderkraan up for this lap. And we do see Spriggs. Spriggs has seen the back of an Angry Birds Mustang in front of him, and he thinks that maybe he's a shot now. If you think that someone in 3rd place is going to be happy with 3rd when they might be able to get 2nd, I assure you that that's not the case. Those guys are absolutely going to be fighting, and Spriggs will now be doing everything that he can to close the gap on this left-hander to maybe get himself a shot in the braking zone on the last 2 corners. Rankin, though, out the front, 2 corners to go now. He only really has 1 major braking zone. He is absolutely on the hunt for another race win in the wet as he pulls it up. Early turn in, make sure that he gets to that apex. Nice simple drive off. One last corner to go.
For Vanderkraan.
Matt Vanderkraan is absolutely doing everything that he can, and Trav Hunt has closed up on the background there. But we do see Scotty Rankin comes to the finish line and grabs a win off of Matt Vanderkraan before Spriggs and Hunt cross the line. Dean Logsdale in 5th again. Jim Caperonis has held everything together for 6th. Vargs down in 7th after that little bit of a contact. Jamie McKnight driving all the way through to 8th. Nick Heisler in 9th. And Gary Buckland rounding out the 10. Jared, what a fantastic way to finish that race.
Absolutely huge finish to that one. And you can see the last of the drivers just starting to make their way through now. The battle's still on. Sheriff's just barely pipped by Bird at the line. 0.12 between those two, back for 18th and 19th. A massive race, and what a way to finish here at the Red Bull Ring. Scott Rankin, I think right now just taking some deep breaths and perhaps a few well-deserved drinks from a bottle of his choice next to him. That was a massive finish. In the end, 0.388 separating Rankin and Vanderkraan out in front as we wait for Phil Marsh to make his way around and finish it off. There it is. I tell you what, Josh Harris, I don't think we could have asked for a better finish.
Look, what a way to finish. And Jared, I do apologise for being slightly distracted there. My headset has just about melted. And if I can just tell you how much this means to Scotty Rankin, having been celebrated by an incredibly happy Matt Vanderkraan. Scott Rankin did put an official request in to swear on race comms in celebration. That man is just about as excited as I've seen anyone to win a race, and it is fantastic to see. Jared, I'll hand over to you to read through the results, but my goodness, what a way to finish this race, and I can't wait to have a chat to certainly Scotty Rankin, but definitely Matt Vanderkraan as well. He has had one grabbed off him there, and there is no doubt he's been beaten on pace, and it's fantastic to see.
Absolutely, as Scott Rankin gets as much of a burnout going as he can in the background. Look, a huge win, 181 points for Scott Rankin there ahead of Matt Vanderkraan taking second place. Jason Spriggs in third, followed by Trav Hunt, a huge drive there to come home in fourth as well. Dean Logsdale from Team AJR representing well in fifth place. Jim Caparonis just behind, taking out sixth, so some good points for him tonight. Stephen Varga in seventh ahead of Jay McKnight and Nick Heusler. Gary Buckland from Old Mate & Sons back in P10. And then Matthew Stoyles and Rick Vigar further back. Peter Sutler and Troy Sipple behind them. Michael Hayes and Damon Fisher in there as well, with Dane Nothdurft and Lucas Burt featuring towards the bottom of the tower there. As we go down the list just a little further, Daniel Sheriff's in 19th ahead of Granshaw. Then Rose, Thomas and Buckland, the last finishers on the lead lap. Phil Marsh, unfortunately with that incident coming out of the pits, finishes 2 laps down. And Dylan Sipple, of course, not starting tonight. As we go, mate, I don't even know who I want to talk to first, but I suppose we better do this in order. Let's kick it off with Jason Spriggs. Welcome to the booth, Jason. What a drive tonight, mate.
Hey boys, that was fun.
Look, it was great fun for us here in the booth. Bloody hell, that was a battle for that top 5, and mate, you've come out beautifully in P3, but you pushed it all the way to the end there, didn't you?
Yeah, it's been a great day. First wet race ever. I got on earlier and again couldn't really do a lap, and Greg jumped in, and it was great fun racing. Really good fun.
So I'm considering this an official request for an all wet season next season. Is that what I'm hearing here, Jason?
Not all wet, but yeah, it's great fun and really respectful between the guys and keeping off each other. And sorry to Stephen Varga, that's 2 weeks in a row we've made contact. Sorry, buddy.
Look, mate, I know Vargas is passionate, but he knows it's racing, and that's the way it goes sometimes. In the end, just unfortunate that it happens to be 2 weeks in a row. But, mate, P3 tonight, congratulations. Some awesome points in both races for you in the championship hunt to try and stay in touch there with Matt Vanderkraan. So well done, and we'll let you go and enjoy that one, hey?
Thank you, guys, and Dean, awesome racing, man. It was great racing, Dean, the whole time.
Huge night. A lot of support in the chat for Team AJR, mate, so they'll be happy to hear that from you.
Yeah, they're doing really well, and yeah, Dean's doing real good.
Good stuff. Jason Spriggs, P3 in race 2. Congratulations.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Josh, mate, you know what? I've spoken to him so many times this season. I'm going to have to hand this over to you, Mr. Harris.
Look, we welcome Matty Vanderkraan into the booth. Matty, first time in a few weeks that we're having a chat to you before our race winner. I mentioned to the broadcast before you jumped in, I do cheekily listen into race control, and I heard how excited you were for Scotty Rankin. Talk us through that race. I know you didn't win, but gee, it looked like a lot of fun.
Yeah, enormous fun, mate, and massive congrats to Scotty. He drove better than I did, and he had great pace, and I had a little strategy to try and get him on the second last or the last lap, and he was too good for me, so bastard.
Look, he did tell us in our interview after race 1. He said to us, "Look, I've got a little trick up my sleeve, and I think I've worked it out. But I've got to ask you, Matt, on your pit stop that race, did you take new cold tyres by any chance?"
I did not.
Okay.
I learned that after the first race. I think he was more enthusiastic in warming him up behind the safety car than I was. and that, to his credit, gave him a bit of help in those early lap or so where he got me, and good on him. That's great. Scotty's just got quicker and quicker and quicker. For a bloke who drives NASCARs, he's very, very quick in these Gen 3 cars.
Look, good on him for learning how to turn right as well, clearly.
Yep.
Not bad at all. Look, Matt Vanderkruijt, not the result you probably wanted in P2 here in race 2, but I tell you what, some fantastic points for you overall tonight, and can't be unhappy with that result. Scott Rankin putting in a huge effort to deny you the win in the end, but mate, a stellar drive right throughout. The safety car really undoing you again. But hey, that's racing, isn't it?
That didn't help. Yeah, it is, absolutely. I was expecting a safety car, but you know what? Credit to the whole field. For our first ever wet race, I think most people held it on the track pretty good, and that's pretty impressive because it was very, very slippery.
Absolutely.
Now, one question I've got for you, Matt, on your first ever race, I jumped in just before to cut a couple of laps, and it certainly appeared to me that we had some drizzle, but not what I would call a particularly wet track. What do you reckon next season about maybe a bit more rain and really get that spray thrown up and see if we can introduce a few more challenges?
Yeah, I think race one. I think the committee's done well in a sense that let's keep it reasonably simple. Let's keep it consistent. But yeah, next time let's make it a bit more variable, a bit more intense, drying tracks, all that sort of stuff. That'll certainly mix things up.
I'm here for it. I called it out at the start of the night, Matt. I love wet racing for the results that it throws out, and I've thoroughly enjoyed tonight. Congratulations for you on what is a fantastic result, no doubt. A first and a second. I'm pretty sure that you would be putting on your nice white gloves, ready to get handed a beautiful trophy. Only a couple of weeks now. We'll let you go and celebrate that. Celebrate tonight. It has been a fantastic result for you, and well done, mate. You drove almost the perfect 36 laps with just a couple of corners there where one bloke was a little bit faster than you.
Appreciate it, boys, and look forward to watching the broadcast and the great job you boys do. Cheers.
Cheers, Matt. And we will, of course, save the last word here for our good friend Scott Rankin, who joins us again in the booth. All right, I've got to hear it, Scott. What was the secret sauce there, mate?
No tyres, maintain tyre temp.
There you go. Josh Harris figured that out. Absolutely. Interestingly, so let me take a step back here. First and foremost, congratulations on the win. That was absolutely monumental to watch from the booth. How did it feel behind the win? Behind the wheel.
I was nervous beyond belief. I parked it on the inside of Matty, and I'm like, oh no, I've blown the corner here because he broke so early. And I'm like, well, if Matty's broken early, I'm off. I'm going to have us both off. But no, tyre temperature. I was just able to just jam it down through a couple gears and finally not blow an engine whilst leading a race.
Well, that's a nice difference,
I nearly
isn't
did.
it?
I nearly did too.
Well, look, it would be consistent at least, so you couldn't argue with the consistency, but I feel like coming out with the win is probably the more desirable result in the end. I've got to ask then, because we spoke to Matt Vanderkruijt just a moment ago, he didn't take tyres either in his stop, but your stop was a good couple of seconds quicker than his. In terms of the time you actually spent in the pit box. I'm just wondering, were you I don't know, dropping the clutch before they even got you down off the jacks, or what? What happened there?
No. So safety car comes out. I think I burn a litre of fuel under safety car and 3.45 under green. So I just immediately just took that straight out. So I went for it. I calculated the first race. I probably took an extra half a lap of fuel, like out of the stop. That race only took one out because I was like, well, there's no way I'm going to jump Matty. I can't lose a spot to the guys behind. So I went a little bit safer in terms of the fuel margin. And the other thing that allowed me to do is just allow me to just warm the tyres, like put that extra effort back into the tyres. So that's what I put the focus onto doing. So it was all fuel related realistically. It was just like, well, we're short pitting here. So yeah, save what we can.
Well, it's paid off in spades, mate. That pit strategy has come through for you and results in a win, although, probably not the margin that Matt Vanderkruijt looked like he was going to have there before that safety car to get through and get past him and come out, 4/10 ahead is testament to an absolutely fantastic drive on your part. Mate, we're going to see you back for the next wet race? I reckon we might.
Yeah, absolutely. The big thing is how dirty this beer is going to taste out of this shoe, mate. That's the big thing. So.
No. I only wish I was quick enough to add your video to our stream right now, because
I've got time, mate. I've got time. I'm not going anywhere. A few extra breaths to get this beer in the shoe before I have to drink it. But
I'm gonna have to see what I can do here. This is gonna be asking a bit.
I reckon I've got one more question before you do, Scott. I'll save you just 30 seconds while Jared does some stuff. I can see how desperate you are. I know you want to drink out of a shoe. Scotty, Matt Vanderkram was talking about, he thought he had a bit of a strategy on those last 2 laps. I definitely was keeping an eye on that gap and saw it start to shrink down. Tell me, how nervous were you with sort of 1.5 laps to go as you watched that gap close up? Did you feel confident that you could hold him off, or were you really starting to get nervous that he was going to get you there on the last lap?
1.5 laps to go, I'd had about 3 litres of kittens. Coming out of the last corner with 1 to go, I was okay. It was that second to last corner. That was where the margin was really won. So it was the second to last corner. As soon as he got out of that second to last corner, it was like, right, I'm going to brake 5 metres early for turn 1. I'm going to make sure I rotate the car nicely, nice and smooth on the power, hit my marks from there on out. And I was lucky enough to have a friend of mine talking me through the whole thing, because up until that point I was having kittens, and Jason Spriggs actually said to me earlier on in the race, like, there was, I think, lap 3 or 4 was all of a sudden I went from having this really comfy cushion, and I was like, sweet, I'm just going to sit on the tyre, it's going to be nice, I'm going to protect the rears a little bit here, and then I missed one apex, and Spriggs caught me by half a second, so I missed the next apex, and then Spriggs took another 3/10 out of me, and then I was like, oh, we're in trouble, I've already burnt off the rears. So it was all in my own head. I backed myself into a corner quite a lot, and I need people to talk me down a little bit. And I was lucky enough to have a really, really good friend who's just got back into iRacing. I used to race with Shannon, I don't know, about 3 years ago, and Shannon's been back into iRacing for the last 2 weeks, and he was there tonight for me. So,
look, it's good to see. I can see how desperate you are. We can see your face on stream. People in the YouTube channel are already commenting about how excited you are. So have at it, mate. Show us how much it means.
I appreciate particularly the dedication for him loading the Coca-Cola into the Great Northern can, because of course we would never promote.
It's very gold, mate. Well, bottoms up, boys.
Here we go, the shoey. Oh, Jesus, that's disgusting. I can't believe he's done it. But Scotty Rankin, a very well-deserved shoey to finish the night off. Mate, that is... I don't know whether to be impressed or horrified. But
Jared,
what a way to end it.
I just have to say that I hope that you can find another commentator for next week, because I am retiring. That is it. I have hit my career highlight. I am done. Thank you so much, Scotty Rankin, for enjoying that. You are on mute, mate, if you do want to keep on chatting to us.
I hope there's no fungus in that, because I've got to commentate Pro Series tomorrow night.
Congratulations, mate.
Just give me a shout, mate. I'll come and give you a hand.
Mate, it's been 2 years since my last shoey. I cracked. I was very, very lucky when I first started iRacing. Won a slew of endurance races, sort of back to back to back to back. I've had, in the last 18 months, I just haven't been able to put anything together. I want to say a big shout out to everyone that makes this league possible. Big personal shout out to both Gary Buckland and Jamie McKnight, who have been getting me racing just about every week. Anita Buckland as well, in particular. To be perfectly honest, about 8 months ago, I was on a cliff, and I was not a metaphorical cliff, but still pretty much a cliff nonetheless. And there's a few people around this community that have kept me here and kept me rolling, and they're some of the best in this league. So, thanks, boys.
Mate, good to have you as always. Congrats. Go get yourself another beer and keep it clean this time, mate.
Oh, there is. There's another one sitting here on the bench ready to crack. I'm ready to drink and enjoy that one, though.
Get into it, Scotty. Well done, mate. A fantastic win. Congratulations.
Thanks, boys.
Scott Rankin there, your winner, although I don't know if everyone's ever a winner when it comes to shoeies, but we'll allow it all the same. Let's take a look at the championship standings here. Josh Harris, take us through the moves tonight.
Not surprising, Matt Vanderkram stays out the front. My maths isn't great, Jared, to be able to calculate whether there's been much of a move, but obviously for Spriggs now in second place, 100 points between them. We're eking closer and closer to a full race gap, but you know it's Still plenty to play for, but it's looking more and more likely that we'll see Van der Kraan win the championship this year. Jason Spriggs in second, as I said. Dean Logsdale has come up into third, Varga into fourth, Jamie McKnight in fifth place. Still only a couple of points behind. It is still reasonably close. Jeff Thomas, Gary Buckland, Jim Caparonis and Troy Sipple with Damien Cairns rounding out the 10. Unfortunately, Damien not racing with us tonight, so he has taken a huge old tumble down the order. Damon Fisher, Peter Sattler, Dane Nofdurft, Daniel Scherf, Scotty Rankin, Rick Vigor, Anthony Visma once again tumbling down without racing with us, and Stephen Tonkin in 18th. That is, in all reality, Jared, a very close and hard-fought championship. One thing that I would note is I'm still not sure that we've had our drop rounds taken into account, so there may be ever so slight changes to come, but we are really racing towards the pointy end, and we are starting to see a few people emerge at the top of the table that we expect will probably remain where they are over the next or over the last races.
Absolutely, and of course the 2 races still to go in this championship. I can't think of a more fitting finish to what has been a phenomenal season here. We've got Sandown next week. It's a classic. These guys are so familiar with that track, not least of which because of the huge charity event that started this all off, the partnership between Alliance Sim Racing and Simple Racing Broadcasts. And so proud to be back at Sandown again for round 9 next week. And then the 4th of March, we head to Phillip Island for round 10, the finish of a huge season 3. I don't know that anyone's going to challenge Matt Van der Kraan, but anything can happen from here, and all it's going to take is a week away to really potentially upset this balance. So I do hope that Van der Kraan takes good care of himself in the next couple of weeks, and if I do put a commentator curse on him with that, this is going to be my lowest moment as a commentator, I reckon, to have him out of the championship as a result of something I've just said. So let's leave it at that and move right along. Josh Harris, as always, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. Your driver of the night this evening, who's it going to be?
Very hard to go past Van der Kraan, running around at the front for so much of that race. But I think at the end of the day, we're kind of used to seeing that. And it sort of makes it a little bit mundane and boring. I think Trav Hunt being able to come up 17 from memory in the first race and then another 2 in the second race, obviously it becomes incredibly hard to move forward once you do get to the front of the pack. Really does probably stand out for me. It's hard enough to pass in a supercar in the dry, Jared, let alone trying to do it in the wet. And I think that if he has been able to, to get 19 passes done in 36 laps, that's a pretty stellar effort, and probably one that's hard to ignore.
Right there with you on that one. Trav Hunt, my driver of the day as well. It is unanimous tonight. A massive effort, but of course huge driving prowess from everyone at the front of this pack, and indeed right throughout. To see such a clean event tonight in these sort of conditions is just testament to the skill levels that we've got here in this field. Battles going on right throughout. A feature of Alliance Sim Racing again tonight, no exception. Huge thank you, of course, to Quantum Tint Solutions and AA West Automotive, our primary sponsors of the series. With just a couple of rounds to go, this season has just been something special, and I don't know quite how we're going to top it next season. But of course, keep your eye out if you are looking at getting into some of this Gen 3 supercar racing. Keep your eyes open and keep in touch with us as we get closer and closer to the launch of course, the Endurance Championship. 3 races this year. The first in March will, of course, be the Phillip Island 600, and we will be bringing that coverage to you here on Simple Racing Broadcasts and it's in the Alliance Sim Racing channel as well. So do make sure, if you're not already, hit that subscribe button down below. If you want to be notified when the races are going live, make sure you hit the bell. And I think we're going to have to call it there for this evening, Josh. I can't take any more excitement. Any last words from you?
No real last words, Jared. Thank you very much for having me along. What a fantastic evening of racing. I don't think I can take any more excitement either. I hope everyone has a fantastic night, and I look forward to chatting to you all again next week.
Absolutely. Until then, folks, do look after yourselves, keep each other safe, and we will see you again next week. It is goodbye for now.